Hello everyone. Welcome to GW Prime. Your where is here. I am Nivedita Mohanta, your host for today's session. While we see news coming every day about violence against women, people protest and things take over to another. People move on to the next big thing as soon as they get over with the past thing. But the gender based violence never ceased to exist. Now we have data, internet connectivity, power of social media, and advanced technologies. Yet the situation hasn't changed much. But it doesn't mean that the situation would not change. We have a lot of women taking up the roles to utilize technology and data to innovate new ways to help women in need. To discuss about the role of technology in mapping the gender-based violence, we have with us today Elsa Mary De Silva. Welcome to our show, Elsa.
Hi, Nivedita. Lovely to meet you again, and thank you for having me on your show.
Elsa is the founder and CEO of Red Dot Foundation, which runs a platform called Safe City. It is a platform that utilizes data to curb gender based violence globally. Uh, So, my first question is according to the Global Gender Gap Index 2024, India ranks 129th out of 146 countries that it surveys, which is 18th position from the bottom. The survey is done on the basis of four different sub indices: economic participation and opportunity, educational attainment, health and survival, and political empowerment. How can women's participation be increased in leadership roles in both business and government? And what are the key levers for addressing broader gender gaps in households, societies, and economies?
Thank you for asking this question. And it's really a shameful thing that we are at the bottom of the list. We should be doing everything possible to be at the top. You know, the, the reason why we are at this particular position, and you mentioned the different categories. So if you take one by one, how many women are in political leadership? How many women are in business leadership? So if you take the national government or even the parliament, let's just take the parliament. We have less than 14% women represented over there. And then if you take the state legislative assemblies, it's less than 9%. So that means either we are not voting women in, or we are not seeing them as leaders to even give them tickets. And then once we have a woman candidate, is she even considered worthy enough to represent us? And that goes same for business as well. You may find a lot of women in lower levels of an organization, but as they progress through their career, their numbers dwindle. And so you find very few women as CEOs of the companies or even in the boardrooms. And therefore, you need to have affirmative actions like insisting on a woman director in the board. You must have women constituencies where only women are candidates. And that 33% representation is still pending to be passed, right? Now, where does it all come from? It comes from a patriarchal mindset which governs our culture and the way we function. And this is constantly reinforced by pop culture, religion, and, other norms, social norms. So, what the statistics tell us, and this gender gap index is one statistic, it tells us that women are not valued as equal to men. And that is reflected in our femicide rates. So even before you're born or when you're born, you are being killed, right? And then it shows up in access to education, access to career opportunities, violence against women and girls, and so on and so forth. So if you're saying we need to change it, and of course we need to change it on a war footing, I believe men have to step up. Men have to take responsibility for it. And from there, they can then insist that women get their rightful place in society, whether it is access to education, whether it's access to careers, and it can be merit based. But you know you know that picture of equality and inclusion where you have steps, right? So you really have to push somebody up to even allow them to see the cricket field if everybody is not on the same level. So we have to first understand our privilege, we have to acknowledge that there is inequality, and then put in place those affirmative actions that help or give that little boost up so that you can all be at the same level.
Right. And now I would like to know what motivated you to start your work and advocate against gender-based violence.
So I was in the aviation sector. I had a long career of 2 decades between Jet Airways and Kingfisher Airlines, and I had a wonderful time. I started off as a flight attendant, and then I was promoted to safety instructor where I taught pilots and cabin crew safety procedures. And then I ended up in strategy, which was revenue management, pricing, and then network planning, where I planned the route network for Kingfisher, which was about 500 daily flights. However, in 2012, I found myself at a crossroads. I felt I'd reached my glass ceiling. I was looking for my purpose. And Kingfisher, as you know, went through its own financial downturn and eventually shut. But, I already had decided that I wanted to move on. I wanted to do more purposeful work on women's rights or children's rights, but I didn't know what aspect to focus on. And then in December, we had this horrific incident with Jyoti Singh in Delhi, where she lost her life due to the gang rape. And that made me think, made me pause. It triggered a lot of those experiences that I had suppressed at the back of my mind, where I had been groped on a train as a 13-year-old, witnessed masturbation, being catcalled, and even being sexually harassed at the workplace. All of these incidents I'd never really spoken about or made any complaints. And I noticed that my friends started sharing their own stories, and none of us had made any complaints. So I realized that we needed to make this more visible, because if it's not showing up in official data, how are you going to solve the problem? And that's
Exactly.
why friends and myself launched 10 days after the gang rape a crowd mapping platform called Safe City, which anonymously records and documents your personal incident of violence and visualizes it on a map so that you can see it as location based patterns and trends.
How does Safe City leverage technology to empower women? How do you collect the data? How does it work?
So, sexual and gender based violence is a pervasive problem which impacts women and girls around the world. It's not just an India issue alone. And currently,
Oh,
Safe City has data from 96 countries that makes that statistic a reality, unfortunately. According to UN Women, 1 in 3 women around the world experience some form of sexual assault at least once in a lifetime. And 80% choose not to report, which corresponds to what our own reportees have said. About 78% have said that they have not reported to the police and will not go to the police. Now, what are they reporting on Safe City? First of all, what do we collect? We ask you your age and gender. We don't collect any personal information. We do not track even IP addresses. So it is a completely safe platform. We ask you what happened to you, where it happened, the date, and the time of day. And this report is then read by a member of my team before it is published on the front end. So, again, there's a check and balance to see whether it meets our criteria, whether there's any naming, shaming, or blaming, which we don't encourage, or if any other personal information is mentioned. Now, what do we do with this data? First of all, I want to also say that what is being reported on our site. So, the top 4 categories, the first one is stalking. And if you see, like, the amount of reports that mention stalking, and when you correspond with this data on NCRB, which is the National Crime Research Bureau, only 3% are reporting on NCRB. The second category is ogling and staring. And you don't even have an IPC that is corresponding to it. Yes, you do have 509, which talks about modesty, offending the modesty of a woman, but it's open to interpretation. The third highest category is commenting and catcalling, and the fourth one is touching and groping, right? Even rape that is being reported on our platform, only 25% have gone to the police to report it. So, as you can see, it's highly underreported. And therefore, making it visible on Safe City is the first step. Second step is we are not an SOS app. We are a reporting app. And to us, it's the first step in the healing process because you have found a place to talk about your experience, which is highly traumatic. And this is seen because we have reports from over 20 years ago in great detail, which means that woman is carrying the trauma of her experience with her till this day. And the third one is actionable data, which the police can use for better, policing, better security and safety, better policy implementation. But policing is not the only response. We can also respond as citizens. We can also respond as community elders, education institutions, transport, or city officials.
Right. So, like you mentioned, according to UN Women, 1 in every 3 women faces some kind of sexual assault at least once in their lifetime. So, last year you partnered with Cotto, a social community app for women. Please tell us more about it, how women can access it, and what kind of benefits or advantage they get out of it.
So, a lot of social media is very intimidating to especially women because, if you're an outspoken woman, immediately, the online society would want to put you in your place and you may get threats and you may, be trolled, etc. So, Koto is a platform for women by women, and they are encouraging this community of women to have a safe space for discussions. And, women have so many issues that you cannot openly discuss or you're not comfortable openly discussing because our bodies are different to men. So whether it is menstruation, pre-menstruation, menopause, premenopause, postmenopause, or even balancing work and life, balancing all your social and professional duties, because emotional care work often falls on the shoulders of women. So
Right.
this is a safe space because there are women over there who can share, guide, coach, mentor you on their experiences, but through their lived experiences as well.
Right. So, what is the role of data, innovation, and technology when it comes to gender equality? And how can assessing technology help women in improving their conditions?
I think we live in a technology driven world. It's all around us. So we have to first accept that. I do believe technology can play a huge role because it can democratize your experience. It allows you to access information very easily, and you can upskill yourself. You can connect with people, for example, like the Koto app, but you can also have information on Safe City that can make you feel safe, or access legal information, helpline information, or counseling information again on Safe City at your fingertips. You can also, for example, you know what we are trying to do, make what is currently invisible visible. So there are so many ways technology can be used to connect, to collaborate, to keep yourself safe, to upskill yourself, and so on. Now, I feel women may not think of themselves as users of technology, developers of technology, but I want to bust that myth because I think women can do everything if they set their mind to it. This is also a place where women should inhabit it. And I am in Colombo for a women's leadership program, and there were several tech entrepreneurs over here. They were developing apps, and apps that were highly successful, apps for the government for e-governance, which were being used by millions of people. So women can do this very easily if they are developers of technology, creators of technology. They can run their businesses. For example, at Red Dot Foundation, we also have a program for livelihoods where we help women entrepreneurs or women become micro entrepreneurs by converting their hobbies into business ideas. And social media plays a big role because of marketing. Social media is often free. You can learn to use WhatsApp as a marketing tool. You can learn to use Canva, to create lovely marketing posters and material, which you can then put on Instagram or any other social media of your choice. You can use YouTube to communicate, or even LinkedIn matter. And like you are using StreamYard for broadcasting, anybody else can now use a virtual studio to have podcasts or other, information related programs. So I would encourage all women to explore technology, get comfortable with it, and learn to use it in the most efficient way.
This is related to my next question. So, like you mentioned about women entrepreneurship, what is the significance of promoting entrepreneurship among women, those who are, in the rural areas, remote areas, especially in micro enterprises?
Women have always had entrepreneurial spirits. I always used to think of myself as first generation entrepreneur in my family, but that is absolutely not true. My great grandmother used to sell Goan sweets and Goan Portuguese sweets and Goan Portuguese food, just to make an extra income for her family. My mother is a teacher, but she would give tuitions to kids. She would have cooking classes every Sunday. And during festivals, she would make, Christmas cake, the rich plum cake, and sell, or Easter eggs and sell. And all of that just added a little more income, to maybe celebrate on a grander scale, or to give one of us, her kids, a better time, like if you needed extra classes. So I think women in everybody's families have always had an entrepreneurial spirit, stretching the resources that they have to make sure that everybody in their ecosystem has the best time. So, what we are helping them do is convert it into businesses with confidence and giving them the skills, the business skills, the marketing skills to actually do it in a professional manner. And thus far, we have had 200 women, mainly from rural and vulnerable backgrounds along the coast from Udupi in Karnataka right up to Uttara Kannada, Goa, and Maharashtra, attend our programs. And we've done it in Hindi, English, Konkani, Tulu, Telugu, Kannada. And they have now, just taken off. They are selling their services and products with confidence and earning on an average about 20,000 rupees a month.
They just needed an initial push,
They
yeah,
just
or a help.
need
Yeah,
somebody to tell them they can do it, show them
yeah.
how to do it, and then give them the confidence that they can do it.
So, what are some of the pressing challenges and potential solutions to improve gender equality in India?
My experience of doing this work, not just the 10 years at Red Dot Foundation, but also the prior 20 years in aviation, is it's not going to happen on its own. You have to be a conscious and responsible leader that is constantly thinking about who is being left behind, and does everybody on your team have an equal playing field. And if they don't, it is your responsibility to make sure that they have that. That is very important. So, first of all, check your own bias, upskill yourself on this topic, and then start listening actively and implementing this plan. The second one is women are socially conditioned to not take risks. And often they have never seen a role model in their lives that are doing it. So you have to be that role model for them, whether you're a male or female boss or an entrepreneur. You have to give some time back for coaching and mentoring. I think mentoring is a critical game changer in gender equality. And then lastly, I would say, thinking about the Calcutta horrific rape of the doctor and her murder, is your workplace safe? Let's start with our family. Let's ask these questions. Let's stop the silence around this issue. Ask your family members, do they feel safe? And where do they not feel safe? And why do they not feel safe? And then let's try to fix it, whether it's their schools, whether it's their colleges, whether it's their institutions. Ask those questions. Does your institution have a policy? Do they have an investigation committee? How do I report if I face an incident? I think we have to break the silence around it. And as a leader, make sure we have the policy implemented in place.
I think only women, instead of getting into self pity and self loathing, they should take charge of the situation in whatever capacity and build their own community, maybe.
And that's why you have Cotto and other areas. Like I'm part of several women's networks. And you can find them on Facebook, you can find them on specific apps like Koto, but you can also go to Fiki. You can find them in your area, whether it's virtual or in the physical space. It's very important that you find your community, you find your tribe, because there are certain questions that you want to ask which you might not feel comfortable asking a male. So find that, or create one if you can't find one. But I would say, at the end of the day, it's not only a woman's problem. It's an entire societal issue, and it's everybody's responsibility to make sure that everyone in that ecosystem has the resources and the confidence to do whatever they want to do, be whoever they want to be, and show up in whatever way they want to show up.
While you mentioned that social media has given a lot of, has given a good platform to, learn and showcase their talents and everything. It has also given, equipped the trollers to troll and the confidence. What would you like to say about this?
So, social media or the digital world mirrors what happens in the physical world. So, just like in the physical world, if you speak up, you often get a pushback. That's what's happening in the digital world. And sometimes it's easier to perpetrate violence in the digital world because if I met somebody I didn't like, I can't say, and I would not say, I'm going to rape you, I'm going to kill you. But in the digital world, you can just type it and it's easy to type it, right? So sometimes people say things which are very aggressive and very violent, and they can't do it in the physical world. They can't say it in the physical world. So what I'm saying is, if this happens to you, remember you're not alone. There are laws. You can file that complaint with crime.gov.in. They have a cyber portal. They are very responsive. Take a screenshot, take and in the digital world, it's easier to have proof as well. So take those digital snapshots and post it over there and take action, because these perpetrators are often not challenged. We need to tell them that there is consequences to action.
Right. Also, they mainly target teenagers because they are more into this influencer culture, and they are the ones that get trapped by these trollers or these perpetrators because they know they can't speak about this to their family or higher authority because whatever reasons, I think they blackmail them and keep them silent.
Red
I
Dot
mean,
Foundation conducts a lot of workshops in schools, in colleges, at workplaces, and in communities on your rights, whether it's in the physical world or the digital world. I think we have to upskill ourselves on what are the laws, what are the different forms of violence, and what are the ways to report. It is absolutely critical that we stay safe and learn to stay safe and keep other people safe. Apart from that, I personally am on several coalitions and committees where we are trying to also get big tech to have more protocols to prevent such incidents from happening or even take faster redressal mechanisms. So I'd like to say that we are on Meta Safety Council. So if you face any issue, like for example, if somebody has posted your video and you want to take it down, you've tried reporting it through their normal process, it's being answered by a bot and you're not getting the response you need, please write to us at info@red.foundation.org, because we have a direct reporting channel for them to take action and take it down or to help you. So there are ways to respond to these kind of horrific incidents. You're not alone. Please know your rights and report it.
and I think you should also have someone who you can trust, who you can, elderly person, suppose mother or sister or an aunt, who you can talk to. That safe space within the family, within the society is very important. And this is completely off the topic. I think there is also some misrepresentation of women in the movies, in the television, which, you know, in a way which is pushing us a little back. While we take two steps ahead, we are pushed back a step back. Do you think?
Yes, so that's why it's very important to develop critical thinking skills early on, not just to point out and identify the misrepresentation or the bias in media, but also, we are in a, like I said, we are in a technology driven world where there's so much of misinformation and disinformation on every topic. So we have to now re-educate ourselves on identifying what is correct and what is incorrect. And therefore, there's a lot of work that needs to be done, but there's also a lot of material available to help you educate yourself. So do not, say, oh, this is happening and blame somebody else. Change starts with you. So take some action at your own end, first of all.
Right. So this is my last question. What changes would you like to see in terms of policy interventions by the government and judiciary in India, considering the recent Kolkata case and other cases that keep on coming on the media?
I'm very happy that Chief Justice Chandrachud has constituted the commission to look into that horrific rape, and come up with protocols to make sure that this doesn't happen, right? So I think, like that, we need more government and nonprofit and corporate partnerships where we have strong prevention and response mechanisms, because by itself this is not going to solve, and it's on such a scale that the government themselves or the non-profits themselves or even the corporates themselves cannot solve it. It needs all of us to come together, work together, and address it on a war footing. It's in the interest of the country, because like this gender gap index, there are so many other development indices where India is right at the bottom of the list. It makes me very upset. I want to see India as the shining star that it should be. We are going to be one of the top three economies of the world, and we cannot have this happen to 50% of our population. It's bad, not just for the image of the country, it's bad for women and it's bad for men too. So we should all take an interest in changing this dynamic. And all of us have to start with our family, start with ourselves, and then expand to our ecosystem and make sure that change occurs.
Thank you so much for your time and this exciting conversation. I'm sure the audience will enjoy the conversation and they'll take something from this, some encouragement, some confidence from this conversation. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much for having me.